and welcome to Eco Girl in a Modern World. My name is Shelley and my channel is dedicated to talking about ways to be more environmentally friendly in a modern context. Today we are going to change gears a little bit. To be honest, the world events in the last week have been very concerning. I feel like we are facing a time of great change, and I think it can, in some ways, that these events can be positive. Sometimes when really challenging things happen, it really makes us confront how active we are in wanting to see our environmental goals come to fruition. And, you know, I know a lot of times a lot of things begin as ideas and then they just never seem to, come to culmination. But sometimes I guess the best way to make your voice be heard or to actually be the change that you wish to see is really pushing for these new technologies to be done. So I decided to go ahead and focus today's video about one of those subjects. Today we're going to talk about hydrogen fuel cells. Now, this is something that I've been very passionate about. I've actually kept up with this technology over the years. About 3 to 5 years ago, you were really hearing it in the news about how this technology was evolving. And what it is that hydrogen, the gas, can be used as a fuel source. The only problem is, of course, you've probably heard of a hydrogen bomb, right? When you're breaking bonds of any molecule, sometimes there are dangers, along with it. Same thing goes with anything. I mean, when you burn gasoline, when gas is processed, goes through its steps of being purified, that's a dangerous process as well. So there's really no easy way to create this. But with hydrogen in particular, it's a highly potent type of fuel. But the beautiful thing about it is that if there is a way to, use and utilize this resource, that it would not only be very green for the planet, but the byproduct when hydrogen is combusted, the byproduct is pure drinking water. Because you think of H2O, the H in H2O is hydrogen. So when hydrogen is expelled, it bonds with oxygen and becomes literally pure water. So water that would not have any contaminants in it. So that's a miracle in itself that we've looked at this technology. Now, where this comes into play is, again, we've been so dependent on oil for so long, and I've talked on this channel a million times. If you look at the oil reserves for the planet, they are dwindling. Even in the most prosperous areas of the world, we're still using oil combustion in cars, trucks, boats. And if we continue to use as we are going to reach an endpoint way sooner than we need to, and especially in the United States. And again, our government here in the United States is taking precautions to not have to tap into that. We should not be tapping into that. A while back, we had opened up the Alaska pipeline. We need to close that and really make that a reserve for a lot of different reasons. Tapping into it is not going to serve anyone, and it's going to keep us reliant on oil, which we don't need to be. Now, of course, battery cars, EV vehicles have come about, which are battery operated, which is a good thing. But the only disadvantage is anytime you have something battery operated, you need to know where the energy source is coming from. So energy is either oil powered, which is the same, it's kind of like Peter and Paul, who you going to pay, you're either using gas or natural gas to power the electricity that you're using to charge your car. Or you can use natural resources like, solar powers, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Or you can use power plants which is not good. Nuclear power plants have a really bad end life. There was actually a really good video that I saw that talked about how we really, the power plants that we used up thus far, when a uranium rod does get completely spent, there's not much that you can do with it except try to discard it. And some of the ways that we've discarded it thus far is not good. And I don't want to, I want to stay away from gloom and doom. So I will not post that video down below. It is a good watch, but we haven't disposed of our nuclear waste very well. So ideally, we do not want to use nuclear power to power our batteries. Plus, batteries take a lot of metals, like lithium, which is dangerous to mine, and it's also dangerous and toxic to dispose of. So ideally, when we're thinking solutions and we're being real world about this, we want batteries that are going to last a long time, that can be repeatedly recharged without having to be disposed of in a short period of time, like 2 to 5 years. And then we also we really want to lean on the more green alternatives. And battery-powered cars do offer that. These electronic vehicles do give a solution to that. So if you've bought an EV, that is a step in the right direction. And actually, one of the videos I'm going to post down below really compares it. It is good to have, when we're in times like this, it is good to have selection. It's good to, as we are, it's never a dramatic shift from one type of energy source to another. It's going to be a gradual kind of weaning off of it to something better. So if EV, just regular, battery powered vehicles are in the middle there, and then it's like a stepping stone to getting to hydropower, that's a good thing. So, but what it is that if you do own an EV, it's not the worst thing. It's just, you hear a lot of people complain that it doesn't go as far. The time it takes to charge your battery is really extensive, and it doesn't feel, if you remember growing up, you might have those remote control cars, and you remember how it felt when the battery got low, and it's like, that's kind of how it feels with these kind of mid-range vehicles. But the nice thing is that, so just to talk about it, a good alternative that we do have now is hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. And it's interesting, hydrogen fuel cells are in the same category as EVs, as electronic vehicles, the vehicles that we have now. And they are gaining popularity. And what it is we have perfected the technology where we can refine hydrogen. And hydrogen is kind of in the same vein as methane. So we can take the hydrogen gas and turn it into something that fuels cars and vehicles and trucks and boats, everything. Anything that is powered with gas, you can power with a hydrogen fuel cell. And I was really excited because the other day I actually saw that that a city in Michigan, Flint, Michigan in particular, and Flint is very close to where in the 50s, in the 1950s, Michigan, Detroit was the headquarters, was the main city of all of our car production. And the beauty of it is that it could see a revival with hydrogen cell if that becomes something that we can produce here in the United States. But the article really brought joy to my heart. It was good to see that this city actually Flint, Michigan, gave themselves a large grant, because it is expensive, to actually create the infrastructure. And that's the biggest thing that can hold someone back, is the infrastructure. Because you think about an electronic powered vehicle, the ones, the Teslas that you drive now. You can only go so far before you have to charge it. And what happens if you're driving cross country and you pull into a gas station that isn't set up with that facility to charge your car? What are you going to do? You're just going to sit on the side of the road with no power, right? So infrastructure is important. So what we can look at is, with the advent of this technology, you might actually start seeing gas stations, and gas stations today, they have diesel. Right. You got regular gas, you got ethanol gas, which is corn powered, and then you've got diesel, right, which is a different octane of fuel. What if your regular gas station was given the ability to have all the choices: diesel, regular gas, ethanol gas, hydrogen fuel cell, and electronic vehicle power charging. If it had all of those options, then we can start getting a choice with our different types of vehicles and really start migrating or moving over, transitioning over to the ones that works best and getting off oil. And that's what I saw this article do, and it was so heartwarming to see. In Flint, Michigan, they had 5 fuel cell powered cars and trucks. They had like two trucks, 3 regular driving cars, and then they've got like 2 buses. And then in the article, if you want to watch it, it's posted down below. They also tested it out with tractor trailers. And the neat thing is that fuel cells actually give you longer driving ranges. Like the biggest complaint about Tesla and the regular battery operated, cars, EVs, is that they just don't seem to go that far. You can go just so long and then you have to recharge. You don't have that problem with hydrogen fuel. You can really go farther. And actually, if you watch that video, they even said that they really tested it. Like they had people in California driving huge vehicles stacked up with, going on vacation with the jet ski strapped to the top, going uphill on a hill, and they were still able to go as far and as fast as regular gas-powered vehicles. And that is a really beautiful technology. If it can actually operate as well as fuel, as gas, as petroleum can do, we have an alternative. So now the disadvantage, and if you watch, there's a great DW, that's a great documentary channel that talked about the pros and cons of hydrogen though. Now, if you watch this channel, there was a post that I had posted about trophic levels. And I know you're thinking, okay, Shelley, that was talking about like consuming, like how we consume, like how I eat a salad versus eating a plate of chicken, and then the energy that I use. Trophic levels actually play into the way that that fuel is manufactured, how it's processed. And what it is that with hydrogen, it has to go through a series of steps that actually makes it, fuel ready. And we talked in the trophic level video about how at every stage, when you eat salad, you exude a certain amount of heat. When you exert energy, a certain amount of it is released as heat. That happens when you process hydrogen for use in a car. And the disadvantage is that it has a pretty high level of heat release. It's about 60%, while processing energy for an EV is more like 20%. But the advantage is you can go farther and faster with it, which is the disadvantage of the EV, right? And the other disadvantage, and I highly suggest if if you want a better explanation, please watch the video, is that hydrogen, there's 3 ways that you can manufacture the hydrogen fuel cell, the actual hydrogen that you use to power the car. One is called, gray hydrogen, and that's where we use the energy to create the hydrogen. Because what it is you technically have to electrocute water to separate hydrogen. And I know that sounds crazy. It's like your 3rd grade science experiment, but believe it or not, it is like that, but just on a much bigger scale. And that electrolysis process takes energy. And that's that energy we're talking about that gets expressed like up to 60%. But what happens is that there's 3 ways that you can do that hydrogen process. The first way is the that doesn't solve the problem, is what they call gray hydrogen, and that's where you use gas or natural gas or coal, or you burn fossil fuels to electrocute the water to get hydrogen, and that's very intensive. It takes about 90% of fuel to do that. So that's not a good option, because that doesn't save us any. It's using the same fuel source to make the alternative fuel source. So that's not really a good option, because it doesn't solve the problem. Mid-range is what we call blue hydrogen. And blue hydrogen is where we kind of use methane gas. And methane can be sourced a couple different ways. Methane, I actually, a long time ago, I interned for the EPA. I know that's pretty wild. And at the time I was actually proofreading, we got a chance to look at some of the initiatives. One way that you can get methane is by doing something called capping of landfills. And again, I'm always very concerned about landfills. So you can put what is the equivalent of kind of like plastic bags over landfills, because landfills emit a lot of methane. And one thing to bear in mind is methane is a greenhouse gas, and it's one of the worst greenhouse gases. It's really what causes holes in our ozone like 20 times faster than any other type of greenhouse gas. So it is really it's not anything that we want to be released into our atmosphere. But if we can catch it, so one way you can do it is by capping landfills and catching that methane. Now, the only reason this does work, the only thing I don't like about methane capping is that it's relying on us building, on top of landfills, which I think is just, you have no idea. You think about what has been buried for the last 60 years. I wouldn't want to build a house on top of that. The other thing is that, landfills leak things into our groundwater. So, I mean, if it is just capping just a regular landfill, that is a good use of that, because you're catching the greenhouse gases. But to be honest, you don't know what is breaking down. Landfills are a hodgepodge of everything that we've thrown away for decades, for millennia now. So, it's like for hundreds of years. So, but that is one way that you can do it. Another way you can do it that falls under the blue hydrogen category is that using fuel, the off-gassing from fuel pipelines, you can catch methane, but the problem is that it is a little bit flawed. There is places that can have leaks. And honestly, when we use that process, it really only catches anywhere from about 20 to 35 or 40% of all the methane. So it's really hit or miss, and that's not the best way we want to do it. Now, the third and probably most promising option out of all of this is green methane. And green methane is, just like we said, we have to electrocute water in order to get the hydrogen in order to power our cars. If you need to generate electricity, you can do that by the natural methods of solar, which is becoming very popular, and windmill and water. So now dam, you've heard of the Hoover Dam. I mean, that generates a lot of power. But the only thing is when you dam up a river, you are blocking that river from flowing downstream. So we can't just dam anywhere. But that is a source, water, hydroelectric works. Windmill is a good one too. The only disadvantage is sometimes if there's no wind, then, and sometimes I have heard statistics that windmills generate a good amount of power. It's just inconsistent because it's contingent on which way the wind blows. Now, the last and most consistent thing that we have seen, and of course, is solar. Solar is great, and I'm actually seeing it. You see solar panels out over places. I've seen solar panels over parking areas. And definitely, if you saw, the albedo effect, the how to keep cool video, we talked about how when heat hits parking lots, all it can do is absorb. So if we create parking lots that actually have solar panels over it to catch all of that energy, we're doing ourselves two favors. We're avoiding the albedo effect, and or we're avoiding that, that it's sucking up all our solar, and we're also getting the sun's energy for power, and we can definitely use that to electrocute our water to get our hydrogen to power our cars. So that's kind of the route that I hope that we go. And again, the best way for us to use our voice, if we say, okay, I don't like you drilling for oil, I don't like you fracking for oil, and that's where you throw bombs into the ocean that destroys coral reefs in order to try to get more accessibility to oil in the ocean, The other thing that does is that leaves you very susceptible to storms. You see that, climate change on its own has kind of made the storm stronger, but it is proven that when you have coral reefs, the undertow is less. It helps stop the churning of storms when they hit you. Not to mention that coral reefs are they support 1/4 of the life in the ocean. They are literally the ocean's rainforests. So we don't want to be fracking. We don't want to be drilling for something that's not going to last us that long. And all it's going to do is send us, we do not want, again, from video 1, don't send us to the dystopian future prematurely. We don't need to go there. Why not create solar energy, sources of solar energy that can power our cars? And guys, these videos, even though there's pros and cons, and there's pros and cons to everything, it gave me a lot of hope. The other thing is that we've been talking a lot about, as we're going into changes with hydrogen fuel cells can fuel cargo ships. Green energy, no emissions. The only emission from that cargo ship would be pure drinking water that could just be poured into the ocean. Goodness knows, it's the off-gassing from hydrogen fuels is cleaner than the ocean itself right now, which is really freaking sad. But the amount of space that the apparatus for fuel cell on cargo ships would only take up, you'd only have to remove about 5% of the cargo, the total shipping, to accommodate the fuel cell apparatus for fueling the boat. So I think that's an excellent trade-off. So where that leaves us is that we have, if we really want to make a change, if we want to speak and do this, we can do so at a local level. You can do so in your state. You can allocate the funds from your state, from this, you pay taxes, you pay state taxes, right? So why not start building the infrastructure of this greener future? The other thing is it really encourages, if we really need solar power to be the infrastructure of making this change for fuel, for the way we power things, we can absolutely do that with housing. Housing has been such a shortage. If we actually did do more missing middle houses, you put more smaller units, 750 square feet to 1,000 square feet, several of these units on 1/2 acre lot or 1, acre lot, you can have solar power, from the roofs that are not only powering those homes, but also giving back to the grid that can create hydrogen fuel cells. And one thing I even saw that was really, really neat is that there's a type of solar panel that looks like, if you've ever seen so in hacienda style homes, there are what they call Spanish tile roofs. And those Spanish tile roofs are not only excellent for insulating a house, but the beautiful thing is if you have a leak in your roof or something like that, you don't have to necessarily replace the whole roof. You can just replace the one area that has the problem, which becomes a lot more cost efficient. So what happens is I actually saw this where there's a technology where the solar panels are in the shape of that. And if you're yes, it's more expensive now to buy that type of it, but the beautiful thing is that if we invest in that type of technology, it's the same problem. If one of your solar panel tiles stop working, you can just replace the one and it becomes more cost efficient. And honestly, the curve of it would catch the sun at every point in the day and utilize it more. I see so many solar panels that are flat and can only catch kind of more midday sun. Sunset, it doesn't quite, absorb as much. And the beautiful thing is that if we get these technologies set up in the United States, it would create jobs. It would give us what we need, which is, a little bit more housing, but in a green way. And that new housing can be utilized to fuel the way that we get around without having so much carbon released in the air. So now the last thing is that a lot of batteries also require, well, both batteries and solar tiles require certain type of minerals, metals that we don't necessarily have an abundance of in the United States. But a primary component is copper. And I think that that is a call to do a lot more recycling than we need to. This was another thing that really brought joy to my day. Is I spoke to a company in my state that actually does the recycling of metals, and they recycle all sorts of metals. So I just felt like this gave me a lot of hope. If we refine the technology and we work out the bugs and we find a way to reuse metals that we don't have to throw away, you know, it's like, how can we repurpose this and put it into the technology that we need that will take us into the future? And I think if we do that on a local level, if you do that in your state and with your community, and you work with your, you work with your legislators, you work with the people who make the laws, because to be quite honest, if it works, it works, and you can be an example, you can be the change you wish to see. But I really hope that this brought some insight. I hope it brought a little bit of sunshine to everyone's day. And if you like what you see here on my channel, I would be very honored if you would like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.